10K advisors want to build a scalable practice, but aren't always sure what to do next. Welcome to Outcomes, the podcast designed to help advisors think, make decisions, and cast a vision to create a business for the future. Here's your host, Ross Marino, financial planner, author, speaker, and CEO of Advisor2X.
Welcome to Outcomes, the podcast. Today, we are joined by Sheri Fitts. Sheri, welcome.
Hey there, Ross. How are you? It's nice to see you.
It's great. Glad you're here. I just received an email from you last night talking about technology and design, and I actually had a list of notes and questions that I thought we would go over. And then all of a sudden, I saw the email and thought, no, that's actually what we need to go over. But before we dive into that, so I loved your new blog post. What I wanted to talk about is because of the pandemic, we've certainly seen a move towards utilizing more technology. That's part of it. And we're using Zoom, and it's because we don't have another choice. We're really forced to leverage this way. Eventually, we're not going to be forced to just do technology. Where do you think we go when that happens?
Oh, wow, Ross. What's very interesting to me is that I had this exact conversation with somebody while I was on my walk this morning. And she was asking me the same thing because she's doing planning for 2021. And how do you plan? And I said, good question. We have just done a massive leapfrog. Video was coming as a marketing, kind of outbound marketing option, and has been coming for a long time. And we know that video helps drive engagement. Any post anywhere that has any kind of moving object associated with it, people are going to watch, right? But what's happened is we've been leapfrogged into this existence. And what I love about it is there's no way that the compliance people in financial services could say, hold on, right? Hold on, we can't do this, because we had to do it. So it's been a blessing. Indeed, it's been a blessing. And I think that it's here to stay. I think it's going to become a key component of a practice's means of communication with their clients, with their prospects, with their team. It's not going away. And for me, I'll tell you, I'm starting to play with new equipment, new technology for that very reason. So I can talk about that in a sec.
Yeah, I think if I just heard you correctly, what you're saying, Sheri, is that this isn't just an accommodation because this is the environment we're in. This is the destination we were going to. Technology was coming, video was coming, and we were going to engage people more along these lines. So that leapfrog is really getting us closer to where we were going anyway. So I think we need to embrace this as not just a temporary way to do business, but you're saying the future is now here and this is the way we need to do things.
Oh, indeed. In fact, well, come on. The second largest search engine in the world is
YouTube.
Okay, so that says something, right? The second thing is I'm actually changing the name of my company from, you heard it here first. I'm changing the name of my company from Sheri Fitts, from Shoe Fitts Marketing to Shoe Fitts Media for that very reason. Because in my mind, marketing seems limiting, and media is really where every firm needs to be, and video is part of that media effort. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think the media is a great switch, and I'm also relieved that I actually got the question right. So it was YouTube, was that correct?
It was, yeah.
Oh, okay, good. So you really should prep me on those kind of things. so we know we love the video.
You can always edit that. The nice thing about this is it's not live. You can always cut it out, and we can always just pretend, right?
But see, I love that part because I mess up so many different times. It really makes my life so much more entertaining there. So as the joke goes, self-deprecating humor is good, and man, do I have a lot of material.
Oh, indeed, me too. Totally.
I love the shift to media, and the reason I like that is because we can't just look at everything that we create as just marketing. Yes, it may be supportive of marketing, but the content that we're doing, it is education. And again, there's a marketing purpose to it, but it's using media in order to connect, in order to not just obtain or bring clients to us, but actually to educate and enhance. So when you shift to media, it's going to be much bigger. And it's not really just about video. You and I were talking right before we hit the record button, and you made the statement of, people thought brochures were like a website, and they made their website to look like a brochure. And, that finally hit me with a duh moment of, you're right, a website shouldn't look like a brochure. So why don't we shift a little bit? Let's talk about the difference between a brochure and a website, and then how that's going to tie into this whole media push.
Sure, totally. And can you imagine, really? Do you need a brochure right now? I have been telling advisors over the past, I don't know how many years, that if you only have $5,000 for marketing, do not spend it on a brochure. What good would a brochure be using for right now? So when I think of when I think of a website, obviously what it is, it's your virtual front door. Then literally that's what it's been. And I've always said, does it look like you're not there? So if you step back, right? When I did my very first ever e-newsletter was in 1998, I tried really hard to make it look like a paper newsletter, because that was the concept that we were dealing with. We really didn't know about this internet thing. So when people started creating their websites, they went, oh, well, this needs to match our, this needs to match our brochure. And I'll tell you that I still see brochure websites. And let's just say that those are fine. Those are adequate. You got to have at least that, right? The who, what, when, where, and how, and all that kind of stuff, right? But when I see what you could do if you had a virtual front door that was open 24 hours a day, that's how you have to start thinking about your website, that it's your virtual front door, and it's open 24 hours a day. And if people are looking for information and they need to talk to you, then that's the place for you to put that information. And so, yeah, blog posts. I'm still writing blog posts. Podcasts. I'm still doing podcasts. Video. I made an intention to get into video in November this past year, because I went and I looked at my whole portfolio of skill sets, of ways to communicate. I always preach to people what they should do, and then I never really do it myself. But certainly video was one of those things. And, I think when media, that's what every company should realize that they're a media company.
Yeah, and I think the visual really hits home with me. I was on the phone yesterday with Joe DeNoyer, and we were just chatting about income and communicating that. Exactly. Doing it in simple ways. And I even said, I think this is going to be a challenge, and it's what I want to talk about when I do an interview with him. And he immediately said, well, we got to bring in Barbara Delaney. I'm like, okay, we'll get Barbara Delaney. So we're going to talk about it, but I want to know, how do you make it easy? And in 10 seconds, he scratches out this visual. So, quick draw. Well, I just saw Joe draw. It was 10 seconds. And all of a sudden he said, here's how you communicate to people. It's vivid in my head. It was a roof over their head. It was a table with some food, and then a C shape on the ground that was basically your grave. So you want a roof over your head, you want food on the table, you want enough money to bury yourself. And I started laughing, because there'll be people with $1 million who will make that comment that they need enough money to bury themselves. And when I was younger as a planner, I used to laugh at that, thinking, you have $1 million, and it doesn't matter, because that's just one of the things in their head. So for him to communicate that, if he just told it to me, I doubt it sticks with me. But because he drew it out real quick, turned it on a piece of paper, put it up in front of the camera, it's burned in my brain. That's the visual. So when I saw your blog post email about the visual, you have a question of what's the proof, I think, on the email. And I laughed. I'm like, Joe draw. I just got the proof. It's in my head. So I get it. And that's why I responded to your email and said, hey, let's talk about this tomorrow. So let's talk about why those visuals actually work. What is it that says we have to do this because it works better than anything else?
Well, first, I have to give you a caveat that I started in this industry in 1994 as a graphic designer. So I have a very strong bias. We are visual beings, and we have to be. I have to know whether you are a puppy or a tiger, and I have to know really fast. And so I am able to make decisions like, boom, really fast. Right, Ross? So visuals speak to us in ways that we cannot necessarily get in other parts of our brain. It's just kind of rounding out the whole experience. You're a father, two daughters. Some of us process things visually. Some of some of us process things auditorially. I mean, I know my husband will not listen to a book. He can't. He has to well, now it's on a Kindle, right? But it used to be before you had to feel it, and there it would be marked up and marked in the things. That's the way he engages with information, is via a book. So I'm not saying that visual is not the only way, but certainly when I look at how advisors communicate right now, I'd say it's about 90% bullet points. That is just not telling a story. There's no visual to it. There's no meaning to it. There's no engagement. And the more that we have to continue to stare at these screens, which now they're not going away. And you were saying a screen this big, right?
Right.
This big. You got to be able to like get somebody's attention. And Joe Draw is a perfect example.
Yeah. And I think the learning styles, I just finished the book Made to Stick, and they talked about some of the academic studies where, yeah, it's probably on, yeah, it's going
It's
to be
right
up
up there.
of course. And they talked about, I'm sure it's on your shelves, right? They talked about the studies where the type of information that we communicate is really what determines how we learn. I'm reading a book right now called Neuroselling, and it talks about how so much goes on in our brain. Jeff Bloomfeld, he'll be a guest real
Okay,
soon.
thank you.
Yep.
Cool.
Just, I knew you'd want that. We'll put it in the show notes. He talks about what goes on in our brain. It's that instinct. Is it a puppy? Is it a tiger? Should I pet it or will it eat me? So that's going to be first, right? And then you have your emotional response, and eventually the cortex kicks in. And now we can actually think about things. What better way to dictate what someone is going to respond or react to by giving them visuals, which our brain is going to process so much faster? So shouldn't we be leading with visuals anyway, just because of how the human brain works?
Well, holy criminy. Webinars with a slide deck to, one side. Webinars are so 2019, right? They're so old school now and we're so used to seeing something, at least at minimum, a talking head plus some pictures. And oftentimes those pictures are just bullet points that somebody's still reading off the slides. I'm doing a lot of presentations at a variety of conferences this fall, including Excel 401k. And what I find very interesting is that I got a long document yesterday admonishing me not to read my slides. I cannot believe that we still have to do that. So setting that aside, sorry, that was not about visuals. But, I think what's interesting, let me tell you this as a speaker, what's interesting is people put bullet points in because they are afraid they're going to forget. The problem is that they do forget. And the best way to prompt what to remember on that slide is to put a visual.
Right.
So put a puppy, right? Because you will actually remember. Nobody in the audience will know what you intended to say. You will know what you intended to say. So a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? Somebody said that. So my whole thing in that post yesterday, Ross, was to try to get advisors to see that having a design aesthetic is critical to their business. The FTSE hired, the design council looked at the FTSE over a period of time and noticed that companies that embrace design thinking, and that's a little bit more than just the visuals, but more kinesthetic, but still, they outperformed their competitors. Ditto for Adobe. In the S&P they looked at, organizations that had design thinking embedded in their kind of expertise outperformed their competitors by 219%. So I am so lucky, and I feel blessed about this just about every day, that I have a background in graphic design, that I can embrace all this stuff, that I'm not afraid of technology and using technology in order to create visuals. I mean, I created my first GIF the other day. I was thrilled. That blinking GIF that was in that thing, those black eyes, it was super fun. We'll have to put a link to my blog post in the show notes, but in that GIF especially. But visuals tell something to somebody so much more quickly than we're able to read.
Yeah. And that's what I just took away from reading a recent book. And I don't know if this was in Made to Stick, but it was a story about, no, it was Ultra Learners. And it was the guy who memorized a gajillion digits, whatever it is. He can memorize numbers over and over.
Oh, Jimmy James. Yeah, something like that. Yes, I know who the guy is. Yeah.
right? And when he went over his system, it was all visual. So for the digits 0 through 9, he had a picture that would go with it. So when you would tell him a number and rip off 15 digits, he would put them together in his head in groups of 3 and he would make a story. So it would be the train crashed into the space shuttle, which was like 4, 7, and 9. I'm making this up, but he has all of these little things. And as he's looking around the room, he's seeing this. It was brilliant. And I was listening to it and I kept rewinding it and still I couldn't process it because he's way smarter than me, but I get the gist of it. There's only 9 digits that he has to remember. And by putting them in groups, we know chunking, he puts them in groups of 3, but then he attaches a visual to it. And that's how he's able to remember all these things. I might as well mention 83 books in a row here. If we're going to think story brand now with Donald Miller, we want them to know.
Look at that. That one's over there.
Of course it is. These are all your books, Sheri. They're in. We know that we want the person to understand you have a problem. I have a plan. Let's get together. Well, the best way to articulate that is to use visuals. Now, this begs the question, Sheri. I've got 9 other books I wanted to mention, but I'm going to skip those for now. Here we are in 2020 talking about this. What took so long for Donald Miller to come out with Story Brand, for you to really start pushing this forward? Why has it taken so long for us to now see like the aha moment of we need to use way more visuals than we've been using in the past?
Well, I think that the pandemic did something very lovely for financial services. Like, granted, and the fact that the market hasn't really felt anything yet is a whole nother conversation that I am not able to talk about because that's not my world of expertise. But what it did do is it compliance had nothing to say about us beginning to use this platform. Nothing. I mean, I think all they did in some cases was limit the fact that we couldn't chat, and in some cases that we couldn't see each other's names.
Yeah, or record.
For some,
right,
exactly. For some people, right? So, first off, that's phenomenal. Second off, though, I think that, and we spent time, right, before pushing the record button, making sure that everything was okay, and that visually we were on and spot on. I could use a completely different microphone. You could use one too, but this says something visually. Immediately, people go, "Oh, professionals," right? Just even this mic. Right?
I have a mic.
Professionals.
Oh, I'm a professional. I have a virtual background. Obviously, I'm a professional. Yes,
exactly.
Or I have smart people around me. I think it's that.
Right. But so we know, Ross, we know that visuals matter. I mean, so we show up, but here's the thing. And this is why I am pushing myself so much in this environment right now. I'm back to feeling blessed about loving technology and loving visuals is that I know that this is not going to be enough. Even when things get back to some way of being together again. We were, as a side note to your viewers, we were talking about the next Excel conference, and I said, I'll be there. I don't care if I'm going to wear a mask and some pink dishwashing gloves. I'm going to, there's going to be the new style, right? But this interface is not going away, and I think that there will be companies who will embrace it, and they will understand that they're a media company, and that's certainly where I see myself going. So I am raising the bar, and then I have something that is called a Stream Deck. Hang on. So this is another really cool toy. So imagine that I have bottom thirds and pictures and a variety of other things, and I can control them via just a touchpad here as opposed to my mouse. So I can go from scene to scene. It doesn't matter. The point is that that the bar has been set, that this is about where the bar is, look good on video. And now we got to say, all right, where can we enhance the experience for our viewers and for the people that we continue to need to communicate with, to reach them, to change their lives, all of the stuff that's really critical about what advisors do. The more that we can embed an experience into it, which includes visuals, is critical. Yeah.
I do like the concept that this isn't just a temporary pause. We're not just doing Zoom because we can't sit down. And I won't belabor it, but because I've said it on previous podcasts, but as soon as I started doing Zoom, within a week, I said to my practice manager, we don't do phone calls anymore. We do Zoom. And if a client says, I prefer to do a phone call. Great. Then we will do a phone call with them. But we're going to Zoom. We're going to call them, help them download the software, make sure it works ahead of time. But being able to see someone and for them to see me, I mean, next level stuff, that's cliche. It's a whole different world on how you engage with people. So I think it's great. I love to see it coming on. Now, let's shift a little bit here. So I just saw an article recently, and it was from BlackRock about re-enrollment meetings and going over the benefits and the considerations to do them. And that's really important. Re-enrollment is such a hot topic. Well, now we have a little more of a challenge because your typical re-enrollment has been disrupted. So how do you think people are going to use video and insert it or use new media into the re-enrollment process or just enrollment meetings? Any thoughts on where this is going?
Oh, wow. Seriously, imagine the ability to have a 2-minute Joe draw with a little bit of music behind it, explaining to people what's going on, how it benefits them, and a story. Click here. They're in front of their device right there. It's not like they're somewhere in a physical enrollment meeting where they don't have it. You can help shift their behavior much more quickly because you can say it's just like right here. Do a QR code on your video, have them go take a picture of it, right? With their phone, and boom, they're right to your enrollment location. I think it's going to break down some barriers. I also think that in those re-enrollment meetings that we're doing, those videos and or the meetings that we're going to do, I think that we need to say to folks, feel free to invite your partner or your spouse or your housemate or anybody else who might be benefited by this information.
Yeah, I
Right?
think it really, yeah, it does. It opens up different opportunities, which is what you're saying there. And they get to download it or view it when they want on their terms, total control. And I'm pretty sure that's a millennial thing anyway, along with many other humans, is they like to consume when they want to consume, how they want to do it, and wherever they are.
One thing that will allow us is we'll be able to do A/B testing on video like this fast, which will help us be even better at the information that we're creating and providing, because it will not just be somebody marching out in their car, doing a meeting, schlepping enrollment books, right? And not really knowing how effective they are. We're going to know within a week about whether those videos are effective or not. And we'll be able to switch gears as fast as possible.
Yes, how wonderful to be able to track views, length of time, click, follow through, action completed, etc. The data that we want to know is more readily available in that environment. So as you said, you can A/B test it. So what are some companies or some people that are doing things right now where you think this is relevant, it's making a difference, I love what they're doing? Anybody or any company you want to mention?
Totally. It's very interesting because I told you that I had an intention of kind of going to the video side. I think we've all, and this is known, right? People are consuming more online courses than ever before. And I am consuming a course right now by a guy, his name is Adrian Salisbury. And if you just Google him, you will see how he is using video to create a relationship with people. And it is phenomenal. And his online courses, seriously, they are $99. And there's a couple of reasons. One, I am learning so much. It's just been this tsunami of information. But two, I'm also watching the teacher and how the teacher interacts and the way that he creates his courses and how he makes himself accessible. And delivers that information. I just think, and there are some financial advisors in my classes with me. So I would say that if you are at all dabbling in that particular world and thinking about how video can help you reach more people, create relationships, Adrian Salisbury. Yeah, I'll send a link to you, Ross.
I think you're going to see more and more of that. That's awesome. We'll definitely put that in the notes. I think that's a pretty cool thing. So what do you got?
Ross,
What are you
I have
showing?
a book.
Okay.
This is my book. Like I have a book. Nobody even knows I have a book. I wrote a book, right? But here's the thing that's interesting about this, to your point, and thank you for that. To your point, this book it's called Deconstructing Digital's Simple Ways to Connect with Your Next Generation Financial Clients. Well, I've been shouting out for social media for forever. And in this, I talk about blogging, I talk about podcasting, I talk about social media. I do not talk about video. So something's missing here, right? I say, oh, okay, I wrote this in, I think, 2015. Oh, video's a good thing. I say, I know that there's a chance for it to move. So here's what I'm doing. To your point, once you have a book, you have content for forever. I'm just going to create the video chapters to this book.
Right.
I'm just going to skip the writing right now and go straight to creating those video chapters. Yeah.
It is. People want to consume it. And it's what a
Mm-hmm.
low cost entry to repurposing content and putting the distribution out there. This is, books are a big lift. They take a lot of time and they take a lot of money. The video, the amount of time and the budget, what's it going to be? 1/10? I don't even know what the numbers are, but it's probably 1/10 to really put out something good. What do you think?
I think actually knowing how much I paid to do my book, which was how much I paid an editor to take all my blog posts and repurpose those into a book,
Right.
Compared to how much I paid for just this fancy little setup right here, right? It's like night. It's like night and day.
Yeah.
It's like night and day. I would say, the thing is, and I'm working with a team of fiduciaries who are getting together to work on creating something like this, and they're like, "Well, what should we do?" And I said, you did something already that many people haven't done, which is you push the record button. I said, you
Right.
keep pushing the record button and you will get better and I will help you. The big thing, if you are an advisor and you're thinking about, okay, I got the Zoom thing down, I think I no longer show any nose hair or crack nail polish. I'm good. Right. Then, maybe the next thing is to start kind of doing video like you're doing, Ross. The biggest thing is just pushing record. And you know this.
I do. And what I told my team here when we started doing this, I bought the whole setup and I told everybody, I've got to do an interview with you. And they said, "Oh, why do you want to interview me?" I said, "I got to get my reps in." I said, "That's how it works." So, and when I called you a while ago, right? Remember, I had it up on
Yep.
screen with the mic. I said, "Sheri, we're doing this like this because I got to get my reps in." And sure
Yep.
enough, you get better and better. You become more confident as time goes on. But if video isn't going away, then you're right. Press the record button, get the camera up, buy the light kit. My entire light setup, I called the ladies at Idea Decanter, and because they have the whole video that they do. And I said, "What do I need for lighting?" They sent me a link from Amazon. I think the lights were $143.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh
this
yeah.
is right. This is not a big deal in order to set up what you need to for the light. And the green screen might have been $40, right? This isn't
Right.
complicated. So yeah, I think it's a great thing to go there. So how about some
I was looking
what do
for
you
my
got?
Apple. I was looking for my Apple AirPods because I've been doing a lot of workshops for advisors on helping them kind of get their video game up to go. And the fact of the matter is that you can buy a $49 ring light, right?
Right,
Use your Apple earbuds, and then yes, you're going to overpay for a webcam. Get over it,
right,
right?
right,
Just get over it. Order one, get
right.
over it, and you'll have a setup.
Yeah,
And you'll look 10 times better than other people.
no
So
doubt.
sorry. I just wanted to, it's not that much money.
It's
Do it.
not a big lift. It's not a big lift until you geek out on microphones, which you and I do. So we got a little carried away. There you go. That and I had my monitors in, musician type monitors, and I even eventually scratched those, and I just used the speaker on the computer, and it's fine for hearing.
Yep.
But
Yep.
the point is, you don't have to be an expert in this stuff. Just turn it on, hit the record button, and you've got to get your reps in. You'll just get better and better. I think it's great. So, how about some final words for anybody out there who realizes I've got to jump up with my tech game? I've got to do a little better. I really got to dive in. How can you encourage them or give them some next steps to focus on?
Well, how about this for accountability? My objective over the next 60 days is to do 10 Facebook Lives. That's me doing my reps. But in that, obviously, what I'm doing is also helping the community get their video world up together. So hunt me down, hold me accountable. I'm doing that. And then, yes, go to YouTube and hunt down Sheri Fitts. There will be the additional chapters of this book. Yikes! And it will be done by October. Right, Ross? Because I want to be able to, by the time I have my little session at Excel, I want to be able to kind of hold this back up and say, I held myself accountable publicly and I'm doing it.
Thank you so much for being on the show today. It's always great to hear from you. Always great to hear the wisdom. And I love the fact that you are explaining that you are learning as you go, because your 2015 book is missing the entire topic we seem to be talking about today, right? But that's part of it. That's part of the progression. And,
Right.
Appreciate you
Yeah.
sharing that. So really, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for listening to Outcomes. Subscribe now to be notified when new episodes become available. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guest and does not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Advisor 2X. The content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing advice. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service providers with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.